to another edition of Talks at Google. I'm Suyash Gupta, a software engineer working with the Google Maps team, and I'm honored to be hosting today's session because we have a guest who is a very talented violinist. She is well known among the musical community in India. She has performed on some of the most prestigious and reputed stages, events, festivals across the world. You might have seen her perform live or on stage, either solo or with her family, because she's the daughter of an illustrious violinist, Dr. Sangeeta Shankar. And she's also the granddaughter of a legendary violinist, Padma Bhushan Dr. N. Rajan. So without any delays, let's welcome Ragini Shankar. Thank you, Ragini, for the musical greeting. Um, we'll just thanks a lot for all the viewers who are left wanting more for that violin. I would say that we have more to come, so just stay with us and welcome, Ragini.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Suyash. It's such a pleasure and such an honor for me to be at Talks at Google. And thank you very much for the warm invitation. It is, for me, it's like a dream come true today to be at Google, the very platform with which I have grown up.
Yeah, we are just equally pleased to have you here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something, Sarni.
Yeah.
Starting with a very obvious question. So your
Yes.
name, Ragini, I know it has something to do with music,
Yeah.
but can you tell the audience what does it mean and if there's a story behind it?
Definitely. In fact, it's something which very few people know about. So, my name, Ragini, actually, before I was born, both my grandmothers, that is my mother's mother as well as my father's mother, both
Right.
sides, very much by chance, by coincidence, both of them thought of the name Ragini for me. So,
Mhm.
it was such a coincidence, first of all, that itself.
Right.
And and so my mom was very surprised when she got to know that both the grandmothers want the same name. And to top it all, with Indian classical music, it goes so well because the whole concept of Indian classical music is based on ragas, on
Right.
based on melodies.
Mhm.
So raga is basically the male form and Ragini is its female form. So
Right.
Ragini is so Rag Ragini. The entire concept goes together, and in
Mhm.
fact, how do I say? Yeah, for me, since I'm in Indian classical music, it's just such a coincidence that my name fits so well with my profession, and not
Right.
only that, because my name also means the word love. So
Oh,
it's music also. On one hand, it means melody, and on the other hand,
right.
it means love, and both these things are like very very dear to my heart, and my profession shows my love for music. So I think my
Yeah,
name
yeah.
is very apt.
Definitely, because so you mentioning about your family, it's no surprise that they named you something like that because we've heard that several generations before you from your family have been involved in music. Uh,
Right.
just throw some light on that.
Definitely. In fact, you should know this that in our family, actually I'm the eighth generation. Me and my sister Nandini, we both are violinists. So we
Mhm.
are the eighth generation in our family of musicians. So
Right.
basically, my grandmother, my mother, me and Nandini, we do three generations on the violin concerts.
Mhm.
So, and before that, my grandmother's father, he was also a violinist. I mean, not by profession. He didn't play professionally, but he was a very, very good teacher. And
Okay.
before that, the generations, they basically they were all singers. So to carry on the tradition for 8 generations, it definitely feels very, very. I feel very privileged.
Right.
Yeah.
And um, how did you like? When did you start playing the violin, and how did you get introduced to this? Of course, your mother and your grandmother both play that, but
Mm.
how did it become like a passion for you?
Um, in our family, actually, we have a tradition that
Mhm.
when a child turns 3,
Right.
I mean, whether it was me or Nandini, we were handed over the violin at that age. It's not a choice, but it's something that comes with the family. So that was something that was a very natural process, something that we didn't even think about. A
Mhm.
3-year-old child can't really think about what it wants to do.
Right.
But over the course of years, I think what happened is that we really developed an interest for it. We really became passionate about it. Although
Mhm.
I think the beginning years were very, it was very difficult for my parents and
Right.
our grandmother because, to make a young child practice and that too every day, it's a task. But then once we got through that stage, I think till around 13, 14, we realized the worth of what we were doing. By then,
Right.
already 10 years had gone down into practice.
Mhm.
So after that, I think nobody had to tell us to practice. It came very naturally. And that's the reason our passion then became our profession much later on when we started performing live.
Right. So,
Yeah.
like in I'm sure most people would know about this. There has been a tradition. There is this something called student teacher tradition, or what is known in Hindi as Guru Shishya Parampara, which used to
Okay.
follow for musical. I mean, for musical gharanas, for all those training and practice and discipline. So,
Hmm.
how was it for you to, I mean, to be brought up by teacher like people in your own house, and what kind of discipline, what kind of routine did you stick to?
In India, actually, the Guru Shishya Parampara, the teacher-student tradition, it's
Right.
actually a very, very unique, very interesting concept because what used to happen in earlier times is that the student used to be so dedicated to the teacher that they used to live 24 hours with the teacher. They used to leave their families
Yeah.
and come to live at the
Okay.
teacher's place because they used to, because music would not just be a profession, it would not just be how do you say something that you practice for a few hours and leave, but it
Right.
would really be a way of life because
Hmm.
you would see your teacher every day in action, not just when they are teaching you but even off the teaching room.
Right.
You would
Right.
learn so many things. So music in India was like that. And even for me, and I mean, and of course my mother also, since we've all learned from our grandmother, and in my case I've had the privilege of learning from both of them.
Right.
So it's been so nice because music has been in the family all throughout. Every day in our house, it's an atmosphere filled with music. Even when we are not practicing, either we are listening to music or there
Mhm.
is some activity related to music. So that's why I think our earlier years, our school years, were very formative and they were very good years because in fact, our grandmother, she was an emeritus professor in Banaras Hindu University.
Okay.
So for 40 years. And we
Mhm.
used to live in Bombay when I was I mean, we used to live in Navi Mumbai, is what I meant to say.
Mhm.
So our grandmother shifted all the way from Banaras to Mumbai just to teach us. And her house was about 1 hour away from our house. So what we used to do is every day we used to travel all that way, and that too we selected a school which was near her house. So
Right.
every day after school, so our days would begin very early. Start somewhere around 6. Yeah, around 6. That is
Mhm.
leaving home from 6 at
Okay.
6.
Right.
Getting ready even earlier, and then going to school, and then going to her house, and then practicing there, and then coming back. Our days used to be very, very long. So even after
Right.
coming back, our playtime, evening playtime with friends used to be like very less, because we selected a school near her house. We used to practice with her. So I think, as for education's sake, in generally in South Indian families, they have this uh, specification of a good education along with side by side
Right.
music training,
Mhm.
and I think I got the best of both.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm.
So, and yeah, I mean, of course, we can see music started shaping your life before even you could realize that.
Yeah.
So, when was like you said practiced till the age of 13, 14 when you became conscious that you want to really pursue it as a career. When was your first ever performance? Maybe not as a professional player, but
Huh.
just the what are your memories from the first performance that you gave?
In fact, it's very interesting to note, because our first performance was in a kind of an amphitheater. So it was in Bhopal,
Oh,
in India, in Madhya Pradesh. So
okay.
I was just 11 years old, and my sister Nandini was just 8 years old. And
Mhm.
we performed on the stage, and it was such a beautiful open air amphitheater. And with both my grandmother and mother sitting in the front row in the audience, and
Mhm.
you can see all the apprehension in their face, the excitement in their face, because young little girls are going to perform, and
Right.
it's not like real professionals coming on stage, but then two young little girls going to the stage to get some encouragement. So for us itself, I think we were I think I was a little nervous, definitely, because it was the first time I was entering the stage. But
Right.
then I was also very happy, since it was me and Nandini together. So it was very memorable, and I still remember we played the rag Malkauns. Now
Oh, right.
Malkauns is a rag. In
Mhm.
fact, I don't think if I've ever said this before, but rag Malkauns is one of those ragas which we began our training in Indian classical with.
Mhm.
And that raga, you can't believe, I played it for about just that one raga for about 1.5 to 2 years. We were
Wow.
playing only that rag at home for 1.5 years, because our training was very intense.
Mhm.
Because the concept is about that, till you're not deep rooted in one raga, you cannot move on to the next.
Right.
You have to go within, you have to go deep, you have to explore, you have to be with the notes, you have to be with the entire composition, you have to revolve around that entire space of
Mhm.
improvisation. Then you can say, then you're qualified to present a rag anywhere. In fact,
Right.
according to me, if I was supposed to give a performance somewhere of 1 minute,
Mhm.
you know I would definitely have to put in at least 100 days for it, minimum.
Wow.
Definitely.
And
So,
yeah.
yeah. So it goes to say that things don't come easy, but
Mhm.
the first performance was very memorable, because we got a lot of encouragement from a lot of elders, from a lot of our seniors, and it's just the blessings of everybody, the good wishes of everybody, which has kept me going.
Right. And
Yeah.
you mentioned Rag Malkons. I personally know it's a melodious. It's just it's something else.
Mm.
I've heard that raga numerous times uh,
Mm.
in the city of Bangalore and all those concerts. So it's amazing. You started and you stayed with that for almost 2 years. That's remarkable. So of course, after that, you must have started performing on bigger and bigger stages. So
Mm.
for how long have you been performing on stage?
So I've been performing now for okay, more than 20 years.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
more than 20 years.
Interesting.
In
Mm.
fact, the major turnover came, I would say, when I was finishing my engineering studies.
Mhm.
Because even there, what used to happen was, since I told you already in the beginning, education was very important for us.
Right.
So engineering was what I took up as my qualification, and
Mhm.
that doesn't go to say by any means that music was ignored. It was totally there, and my
Right.
days used to begin at 5 a.m. in the morning. I used to practice and then go to college, and of course, this being an engineer yourself, that college is for 8 hours. and then you
Right.
come back home, and then some days you practice even after coming. But then I think after my engineering, what happened was it was a turnover point because we started performing a lot of concerts that year.
Mhm.
And it was so good traveling, performing, meeting people, learning more, practicing more. I got more time. So then I decided I want to take this up full time.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
once you like, I'm sure after taking up full time, you got even better opportunities.
Hmm.
Can you recall one or two, some of the most memorable performances or the biggest ones that you have really been at, that you have given?
Uh, oh, yes.
Mhm.
In fact, most memorable, there are many, but I think also, I think I'd like to say two of them.
Right.
So, the first one is when I really performed my first solo concert. I
Okay.
think it was very memorable because, to enter the stage
Mhm.
and to face an audience totally alone, to present what you feel, to express your own inner self in front of the audience through your music. It's a very big deal. And also, when you face an audience, you also realize so many things as to how to present your music, how to take care if something goes wrong, and a lot of small things,
Mm,
how to
right.
be totally in the moment. It taught me a lot of things at that age itself. And in fact that was and in fact I waited till I gave my first solo concert. I didn't hurry with it at all. It was at the age of 21 when I finished my engineering studies. I waited long enough because my grandmother is of the very firm opinion that till children are of a certain uh, standard, till they can be ready to um, have the ability to perform a full concert, and not only that, carry it off very gracefully, very nicely, they shouldn't enter the stage.
Right.
So that's why I think I waited till 21, and finally when I entered the stage it was very nice because then I knew that it was worth the effort, worth waiting all this time, because
Mhm.
it really prepared me to go to the stage.
Right.
And also, yes, because we were on this topic, so another very interesting concert experience, which has been extremely memorable for me, I think it was this year, right? This year, 2020, before
Okay.
pandemic uh, grew, you know. So
Right.
it was in February, I think, beginning February, yes, if I'm not mistaken. I think mid
Mhm.
Feb, yes.
Okay.
So I was at this. I was at Isha Foundation in Coimbatore, which is
Mhm.
uh, Sadhguruji's foundation,
Mhm.
and it was one of the most memorable experiences of my life because I think for the first time I performed before an audience of almost a million people.
Wow.
So, and in
And you were
fact,
talking about the live audience there, the people who were sitting.
yeah, yes,
Wow.
the live
Okay.
audience. In fact, when I was there, people told me it was somewhere around, 6, 7 lakh people. But then later on, I came to know that it was almost close to a million.
Okay.
And, just to envision that number itself is so humbling. Because when you go on the stage, you look at the grandeur of the stage. It's so majestic, it's so huge, and you have, you know, I mean, it's like scores and scores of people. Your eyes can't reach where the end is.
Right. One
So
million is a lot. True.
it was very nice because I think that concert was a first. It was a first of many kinds for me because um, first of all, of course, so many people in the concert. So that itself was a very nice feeling because when you see so many people together at one shot, having your eyes on you, it's a very warm feeling because you feel you feel you feel a heartwarming feeling to give back to them. Just
Right.
seeing the love coming to you of so many people together. So
Mhm.
that was the first. Also, another first was that it was the first time that I performed with a Carnatic musician. So, and that too, it was in a very nice space because it was a mix of two, three genres together. So I
Mhm.
think I loved it, and also a first because uh, I think because it was one of those concerts where I just didn't know anything much, We rehearsed hardly, I think, not even one day we didn't rehearse, because I myself landed there like just 1 or 2 days before. So, and there were so many activities going around the Mahashivratri celebration. It was basically for the Mahashivratri
Okay.
celebration that I
Okay.
performed there.
Mhm.
And so many people were busy with so many things. We didn't even have a proper rehearsal on the day, on the morning of the concert. The concert was in the evening. In the morning, I got the songs with me. I mean, to kind of prepare, but then we had just a very small rehearsal, and in the evening it was just improvisation. I
Mhm.
just sat on the stage. I knew today is going to be a complete fun, complete, how do you say, complete let go. So it's very nice. And of course, Sadhguru, revered Sadhguru, he was in the audience. That was
Mhm.
also there. And of course, if you've seen the video, I don't know, there's a huge Adi Yogi Shiva statue behind us performing.
Right.
And
Right.
of course, also there's an acrylic violin which I've used in that. It's unlike the violin which I'm using now,
Mhm.
but it looks like a glass violin which also lights up, and
Yeah.
so many things for me with that concert. And the amount of people who got back to me after that concert, I mean, who have written to me through social media, through various platforms. I mean, the love that I've got from that concert is just tremendous. I'm ever grateful.
Wow.
That's why it's one
Seriously.
of the most memorable experiences for me.
It has to be like 1 million is a lot. You
Mm.
mentioned a couple of things about, of course, the violin. You mentioned
Yeah.
about the Carnatic music, classical music genre.
Mm.
So, but before that, we want to get into your mind. So, how do you prepare yourself before any kind of preparation, much less
Mm.
performing in front of 1 million people? How do
Mhm.
you get yourself into that zone where you focus and, as you said, let go? So
Mm.
what is your preparation routine?
Okay, preparation in the sense that I'll tell you what happens when now, before I go into the stage, what happens.
Hmm.
So, before I go into the stage, I really love to be in a space of calm, in a space of calmness, because that's the most important thing. Because when you have a clear mind, when you have a relaxed mind, everything just flows.
Right.
It's about being in that space of stillness before a performance. I mean, no matter how many people come and talk to you before a performance, I know that 5 minutes before before going into the stage, they are my 5 minutes, because those 5 minutes I would like to be totally zen, totally calm. And I think also what happens is that there have been times when I have been in a great hurry. There has not been time for that stillness. I just
Mhm.
have to jump onto the stage, because it happened once that I had to catch like 3 flights to get to a concert, and I got ready somewhere in the airport, and then
Mhm.
just directly on the way to the concert. So
Right.
no time. So of course in the car, you're still in a space of hurry to reach the concert venue. But then what happens is that once you enter the stage is also a very sacred space,
Hmm.
because it's not just a space where you express your music, but it's also a place where you give and receive love with the audience.
Right.
So, I mean, the moment you enter the stage, at least for me, this is what happens, that when I sit on the stage, I'm in a space where I feel a very profound connection, not just with myself, but also with my instrument and also with the audience. So that way, what happens is that the vibe that you have automatically gets transferred to the audience,
Yeah.
and also it's vice versa. Also, you get vibes from the audience which come to you. That's why, the moment I go into the stage, I feel like everything changes. It becomes the space is a sacred space. It's a very divine space, and I've learned to really respect it, honor it, and even more so because of performing with my family. They have uh, they have really instilled in me the reverence of the stage.
Mhm. True. That was something profound. Stillness before a performance, and when you talk about, you mentioned about the acrylic violin,
Yeah.
and you said it's a glass violin. Like what different kinds of violins have you played? And can you talk something about the instrument in general for the audience and for us?
Definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, in my case, I consider myself very, very blessed, very lucky, because
Mhm.
when I was 3 years old, I definitely did not know the emoting capacity of a violin. That
Mhm.
how beautiful, how beautifully the violin can actually sing and convey human emotions.
Right.
Now when I have it with me, as I'm growing up with all these years behind me, I feel how lucky I have been to have an instrument which actually conveys human emotions so well. So,
Mhm.
and in fact, this is really interesting because I haven't really bought a violin till now in my life.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I haven't bought a violin. In fact, even the acrylic violin, it is my sister who bought it, and
Okay.
she was the one. She's the one who loves to experiment and try new things. So she thought, why not buy one and see, how nice it is. Because in our family, until then, we just have had normal violins,
Mm.
and it worked out so well because the sound of that violin is very nice. And of course, for people who've seen the video, it looks really nice. It lights up when you play, and as such, I would say, for as regards violin selection and violin choices, I think because we were already, when I was born, we had about 7 to 8 violins already at home. So
Mhm.
the violin in even my current violin which I'm playing on is actually a violin which my grandmother she practiced on when she was a little girl.
Okay.
So it's basically handing over, passing over of violence. Of course, we have very good, we have luthiers who do a good job of maintaining our violence. Otherwise, I've never had to buy violence as such. Because also, what happens is one more thing is there, because I've been playing on one instrument for a very long time.
Mm.
You develop an attachment to the instrument somehow.
Right.
It just happens that like I'm so comfortable with my violin that I would not necessarily want to shift to another violin tomorrow. If you ask me if I want to buy another one immediately,
Okay.
I would not want to, because even with the instrument, you have a bonding. There is an attachment to the instrument that you don't want to let go of.
Right. In fact, I've heard a lot of artists, maybe much like yourself, they treat their musical instruments as an extension of their own body. So it gets attached in a certain sense. And so you said the current violin that you just played on was
Hmm.
passed on from your grandmother. How old is that instrument?
Uh, Good question, because I myself, I don't know. It's quite old because if my grandmother played with it when she was in her younger years,
Mm.
definitely it will be around 60 years. I
Wow.
think, yes, 60 years definitely. And with violins, the older violins have a really nice sound. Even this violin is a European violin, and with violence, it's really about personal preference. It cannot be said that if I love a violin, somebody else has to like it,
Mm.
because it's really personal preference. The
Mm.
sound, the acoustic of it, your own feeling as you go over it. And not only that, even strings, they play a huge role in it.
Mm.
Strings and the quality of your bow. In fact, bows I have bought many because I've kept on
Right.
experimenting with it. And even for strings, we were experimenting for a long time. And thomastic infeld vienna is what I'm using right now, which is really good
Mm.
for my playing.
Right.
So yeah, so about violence, I would say it's very, very personal. It's very preferential according to each one's individual needs and tastes.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
A 60-year-old violin is something that many people wouldn't have heard. So that's something. And
And in fact, sorry to interrupt you.
sure,
In
sure,
fact, on
please.
my violin, there will be, if you have a look at it, there
Right.
are parts which are, how do you say, I don't know if I'm showing it well. Yes. There
Yeah.
are parts which are still, how do you say, they'll be unfinished, not
Wearing.
polished,
Okay.
wearing
Okay.
off.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the beauty of these violins is that if you want to maintain the quality of sound, then
Hmm.
you don't polish it, because if it
Okay.
is polished, it will alter it. Not that it cannot be done, but I prefer it to be the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So you also mentioned about. So you are a Hindustani. Do you identify yourself as a Hindustani classical violinist? That's how you
Definitely.
describe. Yeah.
Yes.
And your first performance with Carnatic artist was this year. So
Hmm.
tell us something about the different genres in Indian classical music.
Okay, so now Indian classical itself is an ocean. So it is never ending. It's very, very vast. Of course, you have your the main two genres in India in Indian classical are the North Indian, the Hindustani style, and the Carnatic, which is the South Indian style.
Right.
In fact, me myself, I had started learning Carnatic for about 2 3 years in the beginning, right at the
Okay.
beginning before I started Hindustani,
Hmm.
because because my grandmother belonged to the south also, and she also had a solid training in it. So
Hmm.
before, of course, when she was 15 and she moved to the north, and before that she was trained. So so coming back to the question, so basically there are two main genres of Indian classical. There is the North Indian and South Indian. Apart from that, of course, you have the light classical music genre, which is a whole world in itself. You have Thumri, you have Dadra, you have Tappa, Chaiti, Kajri, Hori, Bhajan.
Wow.
There are
Okay.
Ghazal Geet. There are so many varieties. So Indian classical is very, very expansive. And in fact, for any artist, in fact, for myself, I would say that not just for myself, this I think applies to a grand majority of musicians, that when you select a particular genre, it
Mhm.
takes a lifetime to master, and then you
Right.
don't move from it. That's the reason why Hindustani music is a genre which I personally find extremely appealing, which which I find it very dear to my heart, for the simple reason that it has a very it has a space of improvisation. It has a very deep sense of taking the music, giving it an identity according to how you have learnt it, but at the same time giving your own freedom of expression to it. So for example, any raga, for example, if I take up a raga like, say, any raga, for example, malkons, we were talking about malkons. Now what happens with malkons is that my grandmother and my mother, they would have taught malkons to me in a in a certain manner, the way malkons should be rendered, which is absolutely the most purest form of the raga technique available. So they teach me this. And then what happens is that I refine it over the years. I refine it over the years. And then I also learn how to improvise over the years. And finally, what happens is the end product is still rooted in my tradition, is still rooted
Mhm.
with the same rules, with the same strictness of adhering to the rules of the raga, but it also has my freedom of expression to it. So I would say there is roots and there is wings also, because roots are my
Mhm.
tradition, wings are my freedom, they are my own imagination as to how I want to project the same raga with my own inner
Right.
expression.
You have a beautiful way of explaining things. Um,
Thank you.
so, yeah, coming to experimentation with different genres, what kind
Mhm.
of projects are you involved in musically? Like, what have you been doing? Your collaboration? Tell us something
Yeah.
about that.
Definitely. In fact, collaborative space for me is a very good energy, because you just don't have just yourself, but many other people, many other minds, many other different thought processes and ideas involved. So it's very nice, because something that you wouldn't have thought of, the other
Mhm.
person thinks of, and
Right.
something that you think of, the other person wouldn't have thought of. So it's a very nice space if just not two people, if many people are really willing to come together for a common idea of really how do you say, of flowering a project, it will really work out well. And in fact, what has happened with me is that the first very collaborative project which happened, which was not really a collaboration, but I still like to call it like that, is with my own family. We do three generations of the violin. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
also that's where it began from for me. And then of course it went to other places, but that's a very interesting space, because in this particular space, it's particularly interesting because we don't rehearse together.
Hmm.
We just come together. We all know, okay, today we are going to play Rag Darbari. Okay, let's sit on stage, and then all the, how do you say, the eye contact, the body language. conveys it all, and we just perform. It's very spontaneous. In fact, that's the way music should be. It has to be very spontaneous, very, very in the moment. And as for other collaborations, of course, I have uh, also we have another group called In Strings, which is basically a group formed by my mother, Dr. Sangeeta Shankar, and my sister and me. We are violinists, all three of us, and we have a whole lot of other musicians. I mean, many musicians. If I name them, there are too many. There are 10 musicians at least. So there's tabla, there's pakhavaj, then you have drums, then you have keyboard, guitar, lots of instruments. And what we do basically is in today's times actually to make Indian music, more palatable to the common masses. So
Mm,
basically, in our group, we have a lot of original compositions, but we also have how do you say? We have adapted compositions which are really popular in India. I
mm,
mean, like classical music compositions or general compositions which people know, and we've tried our best. We made a humble attempt to give a really grand sound to those popular tunes, just
mm,
with uh, with a different aspect, with more of a focus on getting the right sound out. So it's an experimentation again. We use all our pedals, we use our electric violins. So a lot of experimentation with that, but it's basically to make music really appealing to the masses, because when people like music which is presented in like 3, 3, 4 minutes short pieces, then they want to listen to more. Then they come back saying, "Oh, we want to attend your Indian classical concert."
mhm. Right.
Because even collaboration works exactly the same way. Even on YouTube, the music that we put out, it is just for like 3, 4 minutes, which gives any common man an idea about what we do, and then that 3, 4 minute really pushes him to watch more, or to
Mm,
attend the live concert.
yeah.
And of course, there have been other projects also. So, of course, I have another group with a lyricist Irshad Kamil. So, of course, you must be knowing of him from the Hindi film industry. So,
Right.
he has a group where basically he recites poetry, and all of us play music with him. So, it's singing
Okay.
and violin and piano, and it's very nice because it's a first of a kind where poetry actually has music along with it,
Yeah.
and it's really interspersed very beautifully. So yeah, and what else? Of course, yes. Also, um, I travel to France sometimes. So there is also a French project that I've done in the past, so which has involved some French musicians as well as Indian musicians, and it's been
Oh,
very enriching because it's like two different worlds, Indian classical and Western contemporary, coming together in one space, and very I mean, there are many differences. There are some similarities, but many differences, and coming together of these energies. So that was also an interesting space because it taught me new things also. And also
I'm sure.
communicating with French musicians is easier for me a little bit because I speak a little French. So
If, oh, that's great.
yeah, so
So,
I can manage to communicate.
right, right. So
Hmm.
I'll just let the live audience know that if you want to start asking questions, and now's the right time. We'll just go through one more question quickly, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A, and then
Yes,
we will have a short performance from Ragini,
sure.
who will be playing something melodious, I'm sure. So, um, what about? So you spoke about uh, performing with your family, right?
Yeah.
So how was it different while performing with your family versus any other artist that you might have collaborated with?
Mm-hmm. With family, I think I've grown up with it. I
Mhm.
have. It's very natural to go and sit on the stage with my family and perform. But I still remember the first time I was performing on stage with my grandmother. I think I was really nervous because, can you imagine a young. How old was I? I don't really remember, but a young girl in her teens, assisting her grandmother in the performance. So, and here is my grandmother who's had like so many years of experience of practice, of expertise behind her. And here is a young girl who's trying to match up to her level of expertise. But I think it taught me a lot because it really made me, it pushed me to do better. In fact, every day, that is my only thing. Whenever I sit for my riyaz, sit for my practice, this is the only thing which comes to my mind as to how can I better myself every day. I mean, better than yesterday. That's the only thing which comes to my mind. And also, the reason I do it is because inwardly I feel a real I have a real connection towards the music, towards, I mean, I think for any, this goes for, of course, any profession, even your profession, it's the same thing.
Right.
Inwardly, if there is, the passion is not there, it doesn't come. But I think it's just the aspect of sitting with her on stage itself taught me a lot of things. Of course, over the years, I've grown to be very comfortable on stage now with her. And performing with other musicians, I think it's a very different space because musicalities, the how do you say the understanding of music, the way of approaching music is different with different people. So somewhere what happens is that when you're collaborating with someone, imagine suppose I'm collaborating with someone who has a completely different vision in mind with respect to mine. You know, at that time, what happens is that you arrive at a common ground where you not only incorporate the other person's ideas but also yours, but come to a place where it's really agreeable to, both of you. So it's a very interesting space. And I think if two people are really committed to towards a project, I think the idea becomes bigger than the thought process behind the idea. I mean, the final goal is more important of creating something beautiful rather than sticking on to my idea or your idea. So, I think that's the only difference. Otherwise, collaboration generally I enjoy because you meet new people, you go to new places. It's everything new about it, right? Who doesn't like it?
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's get to some audience questions.
Yeah.
So Sanchit Agarwal has a question. How do you play complex alaps on a violin?
Hmm.
Is it something that comes naturally without conscious thinking, or do you mentally break it into individual notes first?
Okay. Very interesting question because I think a lot of music students have this question also. So, whether it comes naturally without conscious thinking, yes. Now, for me, it comes naturally without conscious thinking. I don't have to think at all. I just have to sit and play. But then, for anyone who's starting off, I think what is more important is to really be with the music. Like, for example, I'll give a very small tip. Like, for example, if you select three notes or four notes of a particular ala phrase,
Mhm.
what you have to do now is consciously move your mind around those three, four phrases and try different combinations of playing those three, four phrases.
Mhm.
Consciously try to at least make five different combinations of those three, four notes. I mean, I said three, four phrases, but take three, four notes and just form different phrases around those three, four notes. And go on repeating this B with one space itself. Like, for example, I have the notes Ga, Ma, Dha, Ni, Malkos. You know,
Mhm.
now I am only going to be around those notes for the next 10 minutes. I will not move. I will do any combination. I'll start with ma. I will start with ga. I will start with the. I will start with me. I will wait on this note for a long time. I'll wait on this note for a short time. I'll double this note. I'll basically an expression of your inner creativity. First, it may seem very mechanical that you're having to. Okay, I'm starting from this note, ending on this note. Okay, I'm doubling this note. Okay, I'm making this note long. It'll seem very mechanical, but I think that mechanical process slowly, it somewhere becomes how do you say it becomes an automatic process after some time because you have been with that space for a long time. It's just like I will tell you, for example, you're cycling, you fall down, you have to get up after some time. Once you've learned, you don't have to think, you just
Mhm.
go on rolling the cycle. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. At first it may seem very forced, very mechanical, very repetitive, but it's about staying in one space and repeating it around that space. For anything there is no shortcut really. So even with this, it's the same thing.
I think that would be a very useful one because I'm sure we have a lot of people who are pursuing one or the other instrument as a hobby at Google.
Mm.
And we have another question from Rupa. How
Hmm.
many hours would you practice on any normal day?
Hello, Rupa. Thank you for the question. Whenever anybody asks me this question, I'm always at a loss of words as to what to say. I'll tell you why. Because according to me, you cannot really quantify a music in terms of practice of number of hours. I'll tell you why. Because what happens is that when you sit with music in general, when you're sitting for your practice, you're doing something which is really, really how do you say, it's very sacred. My everyday practice is very sacred, so I don't want to count the number of hours. Rather, what I do is I see the quality of music. How well am I able to practice every day? Am I able to give my best? In fact, some days it also happens where, of course, this happens to every musician, I'm sure, where you feel that you don't feel like practicing as much as you would like to do on other days. It happens, even to musicians it happens. But at that time, what do? You at that time you can do something else. So I'll tell you my example. So if ever it comes to that point where today I feel, oh, my back is paining, I cannot really practice today, health reasons or whatever reason, so then I would use that time for listening to music or doing some other activity related to music, for example, organizing my travel or organizing something else, so, but on an average, I think for any beginner, I don't know if you're asking for a beginner or for a professional musician, but I think somewhere around 4 to 5 hours is a good number to keep in mind. Even if you take breaks and do it in the day, it's perfectly fine. In my own case, I'll tell you how I do it. So my own practice is divided into morning and night. So I do it 2 times in the day, and also I take breaks every 45 minutes. I get up, I stretch around, because our violin playing posture is such, it can tend to tighten the back muscles. So I get up, I have my own routine of doing yoga, of doing surya namaskar and all that.
Hmm.
So, and then I sit again, and whenever I sit, there's only one criteria for practice, I'll tell you. You have to be in the music, whether you're sitting for 5 minutes, whether you're sitting for half an hour or 1 hour. The thing is, you have to be in the music. If you're thinking of something else and practicing, I think it will not work because you're not one with the instrument. So I think your mind and your instrument, they have to be one. There has to be oneness.
Right, right. I think that's something that even engineers and at Google can follow. Just get up every 45 minutes and stretch. So we have one more question from Hubert,
Yeah.
who is from France. How
Uh,
many times can you stay without playing the violin? One day or more? And he's from your favorite country for
France.
collaboration.
Yes. Uh, so, how many times can you stay without playing the violin? 1 day or more? Okay, so
Yeah.
it happens that when I travel, sometimes some days practice doesn't happen, which is which is very natural. You are traveling, you are with musicians, and you can't really practice that day. So those days, it is perfectly fine that you skip your practice. It is inevitable. I mean, it's unavoidable, is what I should say. So,
Mhm.
but otherwise, as much as possible, I think it is. Uh, um, I think it's very much a part of, how do you say, it's very ingrained. You don't have to think. You just get up and practice. Unless, of course, if there is a health issue, then I avoid, like, for some days, which can happen. It can happen to
Right.
anyone. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
it's become very ingrained. It's just like any one of your other daily activities which you would do every day. Yeah. Unless, of course, there are constraints. Sometimes there are constraints which prevent
Mhm.
you, but
Right.
as far as possible, your own willingness, try to do it every day.
Sure.
Mm.
So I think we'll jump to the performance part of it because
Yeah.
we are short on time.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, I think you can
Definitely.
tune your violin and we can begin.
Yes. So I'll be presenting today Rag Bhimpalasi, because we are at 3:52 p.m. Indian time. So
Right.
it's a very apt time for an afternoon raga. And since Indian classical music ragas are sung according to specific times, so Bhimpalasi is a very apt time suited to now. So
All right.
just give me a moment. I'll set up and
Sure.
I'll.
That was absolutely wonderful. Thanks a lot, Ragini, for treating
Thank you.
us with that melody. And thanks for coming here. Thanks for talking to us. And I'm sure all the people are virtually clapping for you. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks a lot.
you. Thank you so much. It was an honor being here. And thank you so much to everybody at Google for having me over. And for me, I really enjoyed my time with all of you.
That's, thank you.